It's New Year! Hello my fine lady and gentle person chums. It's Jules here saying Happy New Year and welcome to 2020. Wow, a new decade! This means we need a meaningful and quick hand-lettered illustration. I make videos on all things publishing, including drawing tutorials, planning for your bullet journal, and if you're interested in publishing books for children, then poke that subscribe button, as I'm going to be making a whole lot more videos on children's publishing in the next 12 months. Oh, and ding that bell too, as pressing subscribe doesn't really do a whole lot for you, but if you ding the bell, a notification will pop up and tell you when I've published my latest video. So, on to business. This quote is all about using your intuition. Ideally for this, you need some layout paper and some marker paper. Layout is like thin printer paper and it's great for making your plans. Marker paper is best when using marker or felt tip pens because the pigment will sit nicely on the top, and because the paper itself is smooth, it won't wreck your pens. I'm using here my trusty old Staedtler fine liners, or pigment liners I think they call them, and I've got here for the stems a 0.6, and then I'm going to swap over to 0.4 to do all the leaves. And the reason I've started halfway through is because these two halves are mirror images. So just my advice for this bit is to just copy exactly what you've done on the other side, and when we come to colour it, you'll see we'll be using the same colour pen on each side and doing each side in turn so we don't muddle up which colours are which. The quote itself is "Listen to the whispers of your soul," and that might sound a little bit hippie, airy-fairy rubbish. But actually, I think for me, what it means is that you need to use your gut instinct about things. And particularly, and I've found this myself, particularly if you're a parent. If you're a new mum or dad and you have a little person in your life this year, then it can sometimes be a bit overwhelming to have lots of different information from lots of different sources given to you saying this is the best way to bring up your child, and you just have to follow your instinct on that. And particularly if you think they're unwell and you really feel that your questions haven't been answered and you're really worried about them, don't go home from the doctors or the hospital. Stay there until you have your questions answered, because you know your child. But anyway, that's enough about parenting. This is also about using your intuition for your business or your personal life, or just, anything that you've got going on in your life that you are feeling something inside you is not right, or you are following a path that you think, oh, I'm not sure about this, but I feel like it might be the right thing to do, but it's the daft thing to do. I don't really think it's the sensible thing to do, but something inside keeps pointing me in this direction. Then maybe you ought to listen to those whispers. For me personally, I gave up beginning of last summer. I gave up quite a good job, which was doing lots of tutoring, and it was great fun when I was doing it, but I really felt like it was time to do something different. I really felt like I was going in a different direction, so I took a bit of a leap of faith, and this next 12 months is really going to show me if I've done the right thing, although I think I probably have done the right thing. Even now I can tell. So housekeeping wise, I am using the pen I'm using at the moment is a Tombow dual brush pen, and it's just in the black, and this side I'm using is the thin skinny side, not the big brush side. The other pens I'm using, where I put is a Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, so it's a bit finer, that one. But I always find these a bit tricky. Some people absolutely swear by them, but I sometimes find them a little bit tricky to use, so I'm just going back over the bits that I wasn't quite happy with. And then this is a Papermate pen, and I've talked about these before. I absolutely love these. It's a Papermate Flair, F-L-A-I-R, and this one is in medium. And I actually, after I bought my first ever one, I went onto Amazon and I ordered a whole box full because they are just a joy to work with. The only problem with them is that sometimes they can be a little bit smudgy even when you've left them to dry for ages. So to make absolute sure that I'm going to get this right, I have left that word soul to dry for ages. And now I'm going to use a Jelly Roll pen, a white pen, and this is a 10. Make sure you get the 10. There are loads of 0.8s that you can buy, but buy a 10 because they're much, much better. And you also need to make sure when you first start using it, you just need to get the ink going a bit, and that was why I showed you me shaking it and wiping it on my finger and all sorts, because it just sometimes takes a little while to get the ink going. And I don't know if that might just be the weather, because it's winter here and it's a little bit chilly in my studio. So I'm just using it as a highlight, going round that word, using some little dots, and although you can't see it fantastically well at the moment, when I get to the end of this little section I'm going to show you a close-up and you'll see it does look really good. So that is pretty much the text, and next we need to think about how we're going to colour it, and also any other highlights or ways of making the text pop out. So there you go, it does look, it's quite a sort of chalky colour on that black. I've decided I'm going to use greens because I think green is my favourite colour. I love green and pink together particularly, but I think that using greens is quite relevant to this quote, because it's all about new growth and listening to your instincts, listening to nature. So I'm using a sort of mixture here of, the first one I used was a Tombow dual brush pen, and this is a mixer pen, and then the darker green is a Crayola Super Tips, and you can just mix those two colours in together just to give it a little bit of a shadow. The mixer pens are quite good. I think they are magic actually, because they are clear and they have some sort of, I don't know what it is, some sort of magic goo inside that comes out. It may be just alcohol or something, but there is something in it that blends the colours. Even if you're not using Tombow, if you're using any other brush tip pens or felt tip pens, it just blends the colour really, really well. So I'd highly recommend getting one of those, even if you haven't bought Tombow brush pens. And the green that I used in this was from the pastel collection. So I'm going to go down, I'm going to go through my different little leaves that I've done, and I'm going to make sure that I colour each mirror image in turn, so that I've got exactly the same colour on both sides. Make sure, if you want to, that you turn the page like I did just then to make the colouring much easier. If you keep it upright, it can be a bit problematic. So make sure you just move your piece of work around to make it fit whichever hand you're using. I've got some really interesting projects coming up for 2020. I've got another book that I'm doing. I've got my book that I'm finishing off for this year, which is my nature book. If you've been following me on Instagram, you'll have seen that every day this year I have done a little post for my nature journal of things that I've seen on my dog walks. And I've got another children's book that I'm just about to start working on. I'm doing another picture book for a friend of mine. So it's all go. Plus I've also got the programme that I was working on last summer, and actually at the beginning of, in fact all the way through January, you'll see that it is going to be on special offer. So if you are interested in publishing your children's book, then make sure that you check out the link that's going to be below this video, because it's the formula, the exact formula that I've used for publishing all 10 of my books. And it's so far done the job for me, so maybe it'll help you get your books published too. Now we're coming to the end of these little leaves, so just the final few, and I wanted to just use one colour that wasn't green, and you'll see I did actually do a sort of bluey one, a bluey green, but I'm also going to use that blue that sneaked into my green, so you'll see there over on the left hand side. And just to colour in the mistletoe berries to make you realise that I haven't just forgotten them, I'm just doing a tiny little bit of pale blue at the bottom just to give them a little tiny bit of shadow. So just to finish off, down the bottom there I've got those berries, and I'm going to use the same colours that I started with and blend them. And again, this is just another bit of blending. So you start with the palest colour. Before it dries completely, you go in with the darker colour, and then on each time you've done one, you blend it with the blending brush. And you can't go wrong. And this also, the reason that it works so well is because it's on marker paper. If you tried this on cartridge paper, it's too absorbent and it just soaks in, and you haven't got the option of really blending it. Now I'm going to use that sneaky blue just to give it a real lift and make it pop out a bit more. And I did think to start with that I was going to leave that little white area to make it look like it was shiny, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to make them matte. So I'm glad I did. I think that made quite a difference to make it look like it wasn't a little bit shiny. And there you go. Listen to the whispers of your soul. Using the thin end of the same brush, I'm just going to give the word listen a little bit of a sort of drop shadow, just to make it pop out a bit more. So what are you doing in 2020? Are you making any strides to change your life around? Are you going to be using your intuition and your gut feeling to make your way through life this year? Have you got any suggestions for books or podcasts on this subject? If you have, please comment below. In the next few weeks, I will be making a whole series of videos on the subject of children's publishing. So if that's your thing, then make sure you subscribe and ding the bell. This is my major passion in life. Nothing brings me more joy than holding a newly published book that I've been working on for probably 9 or 10 months. Maybe seeing my children's faces or going for a nice dog walk. Anyway, if that's your thing too, then my aim is to help you bring your story to life. So if you haven't seen them already, make sure you catch one of these videos and share the love by liking the video and sharing with your chums. Have a wondiferous start to 2020. I'm off to sharpen my wit. I will see you next time. Nanu nanu.